Hello, everyone. I've been getting a lot of comments on my Father Altman video. It seems like Father Altman has struck a nerve with some people, particularly the Church of Pachamama. They really don't like him, and there are a lot of fake Catholic trads who don't like Father Altman either. And they're all about, blind obedience, sola obedientia, which we talked about is a heresy. It's the heresy of Vatican II. But anyway, um, I do want to talk a little bit about I guess there's sort of a counter. Um, Father James Altman is a counter to Father James Martin. The more I think about it, the more it makes sense because Father James Martin is extremely divisive. He preaches stuff that's not Catholic. He opposes the Catholic faith. And I do want to address some complaints that people have about Father Altman. And one thing is that he is extremely divisive, and he actually talked about this in one of his sermons. So that people just need to read their Bible. What is it? Luke chapter 12, verse 51. He says, "Do you think I came to bring peace on earth? No, I tell you, but division." Jesus, uh, he said he came to bring division. So I have another Bible verse here. John chapter 6, the bread of life discourse, where Jesus talks about how he's the bread of life and people have to eat his flesh, drink his blood to have eternal life. And this is John chapter 6, verse 61. Many, therefore, of his disciples, hearing it, said, "This saying is hard, and who can hear it?" Um, and in verse 67, uh, 66, Jesus said, "Therefore I did not say to you that no man can come to me unless it be given him by my Father." And 67, it says, "After this, many of his disciples went back and walked no more with him." And so Jesus talked about the inconvenient aspects of the faith. This I am the bread of life. This is an inconvenient aspect of the faith because you have to accept it as faith. It doesn't make sense in our logic, but this is part of our faith that the Catholics believe, at least the actual Catholics, because what was the statistic? Two-thirds of Catholics don't believe in the real presence. Well, this is kind of fundamental to our faith. But uh, in this situation, a lot of the a lot of the disciples, a lot of the followers of Jesus walked away from him because he said something they didn't like. So can you imagine that? Father James Altman is saying stuff people don't like, but is he telling the truth? That's the important thing. And so I think he is the counter to Father James Martin. And Father James Martin isn't super forceful in the stuff he says. Actually, that's not true. On Twitter, he's very critical of anyone who supports certain political beliefs, anyone who allows their Catholic faith to influence what they believe politically. And yeah, that's not good. And I do want to go to an article that he wrote in America Magazine on January 12th. Father Martin, he talked about how Father Altman was responsible for what happened in the Capitol, and the um, obviously the Church of Pachamama wants to label everyone as these crazy lunatics. They want to label all the Catholics as these crazy lunatics. It's the traditionalists' fault, it's the pro lifers' fault for all the bad things that are happening in the world. And really, they need to look at themselves and look at the Marxism they're promoting. But he quotes Father Altman and he basically blames it on him. Now, Father James Altman did refer to Father Martin as a hyper confusion spreading heretic, and I stand with that. That seems pretty accurate. But Father James Martin is actually the one who's divisive. This is the thing: is the bishops they talk about, oh well, we need to avoid divisions. Well, what you can do is excommunicate people. That's going to avoid the divisions because it's going to get the heresy out of the church and it's going to establish the Catholic Church as Catholic. Right now we have the virus religion, we have the Church of Pachamama, and we have the eco theology, the eco theologians, and they're all merged into one. because they all oppose the Catholic faith, but they all try to pretend they're Catholic. Okay, so that's what I have on that. I know there are a lot of people who have been commenting on my videos who are saying, "Oh, Father Altman, he's so divisive, he's disobedient." Okay, well, I don't know. I mean, can you take a look at what you actually believe in, and do you believe in the Catholic faith? Because if you don't, then don't even worry about it. It's not none of your business. Because Father Altman's not doing anything for your church. If you're a Pachamama Catholic, you have no business in the Catholic Church. You have no business promoting the Catholic faith, or even you don't really have a say in what's going on in the Catholic faith because you're not Catholic. So that's all I have for that. I do want to move on to an article that I've linked below, and this actually kind of cracked me up. It's the Chicken Little trads. So the sky is falling. Some Pontificum is gonna fall, and I don't know. Maybe it will, and at that point I'll react to that. But Gloria TV posted this article about how there's a two-stage fight against Summorum Pontificum. Pope Francis is going to release the crackdown in two stages. It says the first blow is expected in a few weeks, so it won't be too long if that's the case, if Gloria TV actually is accurate. And it says it concerns diocesan priests. Anyone who wants to celebrate the Roman Mass will be at the mercy of the extremist bishops. They'll have to ask permission for them to say the Latin Mass. And that's already the case. The diocesan priests already need to ask permission from their bishops to say the Latin Mass. I don't know if they need to, but they already do. So that's not going to change really anything. And then the second blow actually really cracked me up. It said they're going to be forced to align. Oh, it's going to come against the old right communities. So the FSSP and the Institute of Christ the King, they're going to be forced to align their training and pastoral work with the guidelines of the Second Vatican Council. So they're going to have to go through Vatican II sensitivity training. How amazing! Um, I don't know. They didn't detail anything else, but this is just one of the rumors. It really cracked me up. So, what are you going to do to pledge your loyalty to Vatican II? Are you going to remove the St. Michael prayer after Mass? Are you going to remove the oath against modernism? It's pretty funny. So I don't know. I like to see if it actually comes to fruition. Although uh, there was a old right church, or one of the churches in Houston, the Archdiocese of Houston, Texas. Just today, it was announced that they'll be ending their Latin Mass, and they encouraged everyone to go to the closest Latin Mass, which was an FSSP church 42 miles away, which is, I mean, that's pretty unbelievable. I don't know why I didn't see any reasoning for why they decided to close that church, or at least stop the Latin Mass. I don't know that they closed the church. I think they just ended the Latin Mass there. And I think that's kind of ridiculous. But I don't know. So some of that stuff is happening, but then there's also a lot of encouraging signs. Like if you go to the Latin Mass, has your community grown? Have they seen a lot of growth over the past year or so? And I would say around the country, in the United States at least, and probably across the world, the answer is yes. And they're seeing, like every week, they're seeing new people come, and the people are like, "Wow, this is not what I expected. It's way better than I expected. It's much different." Um, so that's that. I do want to get to a few comments here. I don't have a whole lot more to talk about. Um, okay, so there's a comment, a lot of comments on my Cardinal Marx video. That was pretty cool. There is a live chat here. I'm very sympathetic to the society. Love the local chapel. Regularly attend a diocesan TLM. Okay. In case of any craziness, I'll attend the chapel every week. Yeah, the SSPX are kind of a nice fallback option for a lot of people. Oh, okay, I can see the chat here. So, but Mass is at 4 p.m. Oh, yeah. So that's the thing with a lot of Latin Masses, is that they're at inconvenient times. So it's the people that go there, they have to set aside time to go there. So if it's in the afternoon, you're going to get cut off from watching your NFL football games or whatever sports they have in the afternoon. So you really got to be committed. Um, there was a comment here on Cardinal Mark submits resignation. Um, it says next on the hot list is what Pope Francis and company calls arch traditionalist. Pope Francis does not like the left or right. Trust me, don't get too happy about this. He's talking about he or she is talking about Cardinal Marx's resignation. He says they're waiting for us to rejoice based on a reaction. They will measure out how harshly they will put measures on Summorum Pontificum. Okay, well that's you certainly happy to hear your opinion there. Um, there was someone who said, "Oh boy, English is not my first language, but I'm pretty sure these prelates no longer implore the Holy Spirit in their communication. It's not hard just to say holy, but of course it is hard when you no longer receive the grace." So I like that comment. Let me see. All right, and let's see. I got some interesting comments. Michael Getz, their God is a God of surprises. I have no trust in Marx or Francis. There always seems to be an evil scheme behind anything they say or do. They are not Catholic. Why should I even listen to these deceivers? Well, yeah, that's a good point. Why should you? Mimi Rideblom. My priests aren't following Archbishop Sample's letter. Said they don't feel comfortable segregating their people. That's awesome. Good job to those priests. And then a Parent Ryan video got a comment. Forget Lefebvre, you are Lefab. All right, that's great. And I think the last one I'm going to talk about, Daryl Dean. He commented on Bishop Bransfield. Remember Bishop Bransfield from West Virginia? He was a big-time spender, one of McCarrick, part of the McCarrick network, and he was forced to resign after he wasted I think it was something like $200,000 in diocesan money. He kind of used it on his own personal expenses. Flew on a private jet. These are excessive, um, decisions, spending decisions that would probably, generates public outrage. Not that McCarrick and his network don't generate public outrage, but some of the things that some of the very questionable bishops like Stowe, Cardinal Tobin, Supich say, they should get excommunicated for that. But this one that gets the media fired up. And so this Daryl says, what about Reverend Father James Sobus, who called Bransfield out, was basically kept in limbo? Bishop Mark Brennan has yet to reinstate Father James Sobus to active priestly ministry after the whole Bransfield debacle. And I said, well, that's interesting. And he said, it is to my understanding that Father Sobus had retained a canon lawyer, but he is still being kept in limbo status. Bishop Brennan is following long-standing tradition of not allowing priests who disobey orders to remain active. So this is actually very similar to the what's his name, Father Jeremy Leatherby situation in the Diocese of Sacramento, California. Father Leatherby, he was removed uh, for some kind of report against him. It was pretty vague. Now, what it turned out to be, based on my information that I've received, was that Father Leatherby was performing an exorcism on a woman, and she made up stuff that maybe came into her mind during an exorcism, but there were other people in the room at that time, and so they could have confirmed if her story was accurate or not. But basically, the Diocese of Sacramento had him suspended for several years until and then they actually released a video against him. So there was this video where he was, I guess he got into alcohol a little bit, and he was driving home the one time, and he was saying things, and the Diocese of Sacramento released that video to kind of slander his name, not really slander, but to kind of hurt his reputation, make people sympathetic to their cause, which was completely ridiculous, I think. But they drug the situation out, and it seems like this is the same thing in West Virginia. Now, Father Leatherby was actually excommunicated. He said Mass during the shutdown, and he used Benedict's name in the canon instead of Francis. So Um, he was excommunicated by Bishop Soto, and it was a very big mess. The diocese handled it very poorly, and I think it really had a very negative impact on Father Leatherby's mental health, and that was a big problem. Anyway, I don't mean to go on that long about that, but there are situations like this, and we need to bring them to people's attention. So I didn't look into this Father Sobis situation, but I hope that it gets resolved, and it's certainly worth investigating. Church Militant and Life Site a lot of times will do investigations into these things, so hopefully someone will be able to do some research, get some clarity on that. Because if you're hiding priests, or if you're banning priests from public ministry because they're um, trying to expose the corruption in the church and the diocese, that's a big problem. They're whistleblowers, and I think they need to release this information publicly. There are situations around the country where there are a few of these priests in these situations. But anyway, that's what I have today, um, and I really appreciate your comments. If you have any thoughts, comment, and maybe I'll read one of your comments off on one of these live streams. And these live streams are kind of spotty, with it being summer. I'm going to be in and out, and I'm going to be going places. I have some pretty cool ambitions, ideas, but also just to take vacations. So stay tuned. There's some interesting stuff that's going to be coming up in the near future. And as always, thank you so much for watching. We are the laity, and we will not be silent.